So you've completed the home assessment, you've got your results, and now you want to know what the heck does this mean. So in this video what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through each of the common swing faults that will occur because of the common body limitations. So in the home assessment, obviously you had your neck rotation test, you had your trunk rotation test, your shoulder rotation test, and your hip rotation test. And so what I'm going to do is, in the next 5 minutes, take you through what are the common swing faults that you might see if you did not do so well with these tests. So let's go take a look. So the first test in the home assessment obviously is the neck rotation test. So if you don't remember, it's where you're sitting in the chair and you're looking to your right, seeing if you can touch your collarbone, and then same thing to the left. If you failed that test, typically more common in the 50-plus golfer, but particularly if you've had neck surgeries, any other more traumatic acute injuries, you could see some issues here. So how does this connect to your golf swing? When we talk about getting over the golf ball and making a turn into the backswing, a lot of people don't realize that in order for your shoulder to turn and keep your head here, if I stood up, my chin has to be essentially over my collarbone. So if I can't, let's say I can only rotate here halfway, then as I start to take it back, I'm going to have to rotate back off the ball, potentially arch my back. If, say, somebody has a club on this side of my head and they say, don't move your head off of that, so I'm going to, or maybe it would be here, don't move your head back, so I'm going to kind of arch my back in through here. I've seen this a lot of 50-plus golfers who end up having some low back pain. It's because of overuse, because the neck actually isn't moving. The rest of their body moves perfectly fine. We fix their neck and all of a sudden their back pain goes away. And from a positional standpoint, they're able to get into this position over the golf ball with a good turn. So that's one of the main things that a lack of neck rotation can do. As we'll see with all of the connections between any limitations in rotating, whether it be trunk, neck, shoulders, hips, if you have a limit with rotation, you're going to be more prone to introduce side to side or standing up. So that kind of goes for any of these tests. For the neck, we talked about you can't turn here, so you may sway and to try to get to here. Also improve or increase your low back extension. You may stand up to try to falsely create the illusion, or to create the illusion of rotation, or to falsely rotate. Lots of different ways that you can get around a lack of neck mobility, none of which are good for consistent ball striking and consistent scoring. Did not do so well sitting in the chair and rotating your thoracic, rotating your shoulders, as we call it in golf. It's actually thoracic spine rotation. If you were limited in that test, meaning you didn't get at least 45 degrees, normally we want to see 55 to 60 degrees would be what we consider full turn. Then you're going to have a lot of issues in terms of taking a turn into your backswing, loading. It's going to affect how well you load your trail leg. There's also going to be a very negative effect in terms of how much separation you can create between your hips and your upper body. And then also, depending which way you were limited, getting through the ball could be difficult too. So obviously I'm talking as a righty in this video because that's what I am. For lefties out there, just flip if I say right or left. It all is the same biomechanically, it just matters which side your lead side is. So for trunk rotation, obviously if we look at the graphs of some of the best players in the world, as they take the club back, typically they'll turn about 30 to 35 degrees into the right hip. They'll get another at least 60 degrees in through the trunk, which will give them that full 90 to 100 degree turn. And then from there, as they come through, the hips will typically be about 15 degrees ahead of the shoulders. So you could see if you don't have full rotation, let's say I only can rotate 45 degrees or 40 degrees, as I come back I get stuck, well, I have a couple options. I can either just try to swing right from here, in which case I'm probably not going to get much separation because my hands weren't able to get real high because I didn't turn. If I want to get my hands higher, I'm going to either lift with my arms and my body. I may sway out over here to the outside of my foot, none of which are going to be good for a solid weight transfer and solid contact. So as somebody with a lack of trunk rotation comes back, they're going to typically come through very upper body driven over the top, probably cutting across the ball, which we all know creates that little, for a righty, that dreaded left to right, out of bounds. But you know, from there, then as they come through, if they had a limitation coming through on their follow through, they may short it, maybe finish out over here, belt buckle maybe 45 degrees short of the target. So their ability, excuse me, their ability to get through the golf ball is limited. Their ability to load and set up in a consistent position is limited. And as with all these other rotational issues, they're going to either be swaying out to the outside of their foot, which now my bottom of my swing is now maybe a foot behind the golf ball. So now there's consistency issues where my swing is going to bottom out, and then they may also stand up out of the swing. So now I have to get back down to the golf ball. So you can just see how lack of ability to rotate in any of these positions is going to introduce so many other variables in which the golf swing's hard enough. If we can control these simple variables, golf swing will get a little bit easier for us. So the third area that we want to talk about is going to be the shoulders. So in the home assessment, there's the 90-90 test where you're rotating your arm back and forth. I'm going to turn a little bit here just to the camera so you can see a down the line view. As I'm taking the club back, in order to get it to the right position, the arm needs to be able to externally rotate to a certain degree. Now, obviously, depending on the swing methodology you're using and positions and whatnot, that degree may change a little bit, depending if you're up steeper or laid off a little bit more. But in general, you need to be able to get your arm passing is beyond spine angle. So if I'm standing up here, passing would be back here without arching my back. That's where we would want to go. So you can see if I don't have that ability, I may chicken wing, I may come out up over here. I'm not going to be able to get the club necessarily on plane. And then the bigger issue coming through the golf ball, which I'll show you from this head-on view, is as you come down, in order to, if I drive my hips, that arm needs to get into this position. Well, that's external rotation. So if you can't externally rotate, it's going to negatively impact where you get the club at the top of the swing. And then it's really going to negatively impact how well you're to get it back down into the slot and come across the ball on a consistent basis. So if I can't get to here, my arm is probably going to be a little bit more out here, more prone to then chicken winging on that lead arm, probably flipping my hands through the golf ball. A lot of things that are going to decrease your consistency through the strike, and also going to put you at a much higher risk for wrist and elbow issues and shoulder and neck issues as well. But so generally think of this upper quarter is going to be much more at risk if you have a lack of ability of movement in your shoulders, or you can't control where your arms and shoulders are going. So just like we hear about in golf, golf fitness, in terms of the importance of core control, a lot of people forget to talk about the core control up in the shoulder blades and then up through the rotator cuff and the arms. I consider this kind of your first core, and this is kind of your second core. You got a couple different centers of core, and that's one that we definitely need to control as we come through. So again, I'm demonstrating righty. If you were lefty, left arm lack of external rotation would impact your position at the top. It's also going to impact your ability to kind of come through the golf ball consistently through impact. And then your right elbow would affect more of your follow through, more likely putting you at a chicken wing scenario. And then the left arm would do the same thing for a right-handed player on the follow through. So hip rotation is the fourth and, in my opinion, probably the most commonly failed test. It also is the test, in my opinion, that can be improved probably the quickest other than thoracic rotation. So the importance of hip rotation I talked about a little bit earlier. As the golfer takes the club back, the best golfers in the world generally will rotate into their hip about 30 to 35 degrees. On the test, we're looking for you to hit about 40 to 45. That's to give you a little bit of a buffer. In reality, if you can get at least 35 degrees, you may just need to flare your feet out a little bit and then you might be okay. That's something that your local golf professional can help you figure out if they're aware that you have a limitation, either that you tell them about or that the local golf fitness professional that you're working with can inform them about. So if you have that limitation, like we've said a couple times before, can't even hold on to my club here, but here we go. So as I take it back, I may swing a little bit to the outside. I may sway a little bit through, or slide through, sorry. I'm also probably going to stand up out of posture. So all those same rotary issues that we've seen before will still be present. But in particular with the hips, if I can't rotate, that's going to really limit my ability. Let's say I only have 20 degrees of hip internal rotation on my lead leg. From this position, I'm not going to want to fire my hips all the way because that's already more than 20 degrees. So I'm going to delay firing my hips, probably use less of my legs to create the downswing, and I'm going to really drive with my upper body, which will create that upper body driven golf swing. So if we're looking at it on 3D, we'll see a much stronger acceleration pattern from the upper body and the arms. The legs will be a little bit flatter, just meaning that we're not using our most powerful segment as our driver. We're going to use the ground very poorly, all because our brain is really smart and it knows that, hey, if you get here, you're done. You can't move anymore. So then your only option from that position is to fall back, to kind of rotate your foot out. If you've ever seen the guys on the golf course, or if you're one of the girls or guys that as you swing, your foot kind of spins out. A lot of that is often due to poor hip rotation on that lead leg. So hip rotation is hugely important in the golf swing in terms of how it connects your golf swing. I'm going to call this the body swing body connection, and that there's been a lot of research. If your left or your lead hip, so right hip on a lefty, left hip on a righty, if that is limited in terms of how well you can rotate through the golf ball, as you come down, what's going to happen is lack of ability to rotate here is going to tend to increase right side bend and torque and torsional forces in the spine. So you're going to actually see an increase of likelihood of back injury if you have hip internal rotation deficit on the lead leg. So for righties, that's your left leg. For lefties, that's your right leg. Excuse me. So if you are limited in hip internal rotation, the likelihood that you have a back injury is much elevated, and the average time out from a back injury is 2 to 4 weeks. So if you have a lack of hip internal rotation, you're likely to miss 2 to 4 weeks this upcoming season. Very simple fix. If you can jump on it now, identify it, and just resolve it, then you're less likely to actually miss a whole month of your golf season coming up. And if you live up north, that could be 25% of your golf season. So this is a hugely, hugely important test, one that you really need to be aware of. And if you do have limitations, you need to let us know so that we can help you. And you definitely need to let your golf professional know so that they're not trying to get you here and really create separation to increase speed, without knowing that you only have 20 degrees of hip rotation. And as you keep practicing that and getting to that left side on the range for the next 2 days, now all of a sudden you have a disc issue. So now you can't play golf for even longer. So please, 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 if you need to redo this test, if it was borderline, redo it. If it's borderline, this would be the probably most important test, that if it is not clearly a pass, mark it as a fail and really work to improve this, because this has so many implications up the chain in terms of keeping you healthy so that you can play pain-free for many, many years to come. So hopefully getting to see how you did on your golf fitness assessment impacts your golf swing. It's starting to make a lot of sense. You're starting to connect the dots in terms of what really is that body swing connection. And you're able to take away some actionables from this video. On that note, if you haven't already, please send us how you did on your home assessment. We'd be more than happy to send you, as a complimentary gift from us to you, some simple fixes to address any of those issues, whether it was your neck, your shoulders, your spine, your back, your hips, whatever it may be. Let us know what's going on with you so that we can help you. It really is part of our mission to help as many golfers as we can, and we want to empower you to help yourself. So if you send us that to the email addresses that are on the screen right now, that would be great. We'd be more than happy to help you. And if you do that, I can promise you that you'll be swinging faster, playing better, and hurting less.